This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
What's going on, everybody? Let's do this. Another week of Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily is live here on the Winnipeg Sports Talk channel. Great to have you with us. Everyone listening on podcast, hope you had a great weekend, and welcome to everyone hanging with us live on our YouTube channel. If you're in on the YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Just got over 4.9. The road to 5,000 is on. Hopefully you can get to that coming up, and we'll have some great prizes. We'll do a big giveaway for the channel once we get to that elusive 5K mark on YouTube. And for everyone listening on podcast, anytime you have the opportunity to go in and give us a 5-star rating and a little review, certainly appreciate that as well. Big thanks to all of our sponsors as we get things going for another week. Royal Sports, the Nick and Nicky DQ Group, Little Brown Jug, Not Auto Court, Breezy Bend, Boston Pizza, Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge, Assiniboia Downs, and Coolbet Canada. We will get to some lines for Coolbet a little bit later on. It is the Home Run Derby tonight, so we'll take a look at what we can bet on for the Derby. Should be a heck of a lot of fun. And, of course, live racing is back at Assiniboia Downs tonight, so we'll get to some picks for the track a little bit later on as well. Going to be a great show. Bomber training camp began on the weekend, and our good friend Darrin Bauming is going to pop by to fill us in on what he's seen from the first few days of camp. And we'll also talk NHL offseason and look ahead to the expansion draft and free agency with Postmedia's Michael Traikos coming up in just a few minutes. Let's get to it. Lots to chop up after the weekend. Michael Remis, the CTO, joins me as we welcome everyone into chat. Remo, how was your weekend, and how are you doing today as we fire it up for another week here on WST?
Hey, everyone in chat. How are you doing? I'm feeling great, Huss. Nice to get some rain. It was a real hot one. Real hot. So it's like so hot that you can't even go outside, which... I mean, you can do it in short bursts, and I'm not gonna complain about the weather. I'm not gonna complain, but let's say I actually got the Kit Kat Blizzard on Saturday because it was that good. Yeah,
the Kit Kat.
Yeah, gave my son. He's 2. His first DQ dipped cone as well. He was loving it. So
man,
yeah, it was awesome.
What a moment that is! What a moment that is! The lifelong love affair with ice cream begins with one dipped cone at DQ, and the little guy got that one on the weekend. There's so much to get to. Listen, the Lightning are having their boat party today, and I guess we will certainly, and we'll talk about that coming up with Michael Traikos as well. But did you see the fights on the weekend?
I mean,
the UFC.
Can you call that a fight? Was there a fight? I saw a guy.
The entire card was, there were some excellent fights and some entertaining fights on the card. But Conor McGregor could not look like more of a punk right now if he tried. And listen, I've always been a fan of McGregor. He knows how to sell a fight. He's incredibly exciting to watch. That's why he's the biggest star in the history of the sport. But I'll tell you what, when you break your leg and you're sitting on your ass in the octagon, still shit-talking your opponent and his wife, listen, I think even the biggest Conor fans sort of turned away because it was a bad look. It was embarrassing for McGregor, and this is a guy that still has one win since Barack Obama was president. He's still a massive star, but you do wonder where he goes from here. And never mind what happened in the octagon, because Poirier was a favorite. He did go in and he did win, and he killed him in the first round. I mean, to me, that broken leg just prevented McGregor from getting more embarrassed in the second round of the fight. But I got to tell you, I mean, my takeaway from it all, Reem, is the guy is, a no-class scumbag. And I don't know how you can feel any other way after you heard what he was saying after the fight. And still today with this latest announcement that he'll be back in 6 weeks, and that was an illegitimate victory. Give me a break.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, as much as he wants to make it like WWE style with these promos, I mean, you do actually have to fight and actually have to show up. And, you know, when you say, I'm going to take my opponent out on a stretcher, and you're the one getting taken out on a stretcher, I don't think it can look worse for you. And he doesn't shut up. So I've never been a fan of him. I know people love him. I've never got on the Connor train, although I did get suckered into paying for that pay-per-view with Floyd Mayweather, which was a complete joke and a very regrettable purchase. Although it was in the summer, there was nothing else going on. We had people over at the cottage to watch. It was a thing to do. But even before he broke his leg, he looked terrible. It looked like Poirier was going to take it to him.
He was getting his ass kicked.
And by all accounts, Poirier, a great dude, very nice guy. He had, a cancer patient that he's paying the bills for, ringside with him, that he said he's the real fighter. Has his hot sauce business. Sounds like a great guy, a guy you want to hang out with, a good role model. McGregor. Not a nice guy. He sells the fight well, but he's kind of just looking. The more he keeps it going on, it's like you're the one that lost with the broken leg. So I don't know.
Shut the hell up.
Yeah.
Get out of the octagon. I will say this: the Joe Rogan leaning up against the cage, sitting down with Connor interview, as they put the air cast on him, was one of the more bizarre interviews in the history of, never mind MMA, just post game interviews in sports. But listen, they know people want to hear from him, and he never disappoints with having something to say. The guy looked like a huge loser. And again, I've always enjoyed McGregor. I'm here for the nonsense around it, but after the fight, man, get real. And as I said, even the biggest Connor backers were not too big fans of it. Best part of the entire fight, though, had to be Tuivasa going up against, speaking of scumbags, that Greg Hardy. And, on the lock shop on the show, I'd said, I'm not going to claim to be a UFC expert, but I will be betting on Tuivasa just so I can bet against Greg Hardy, one of the most reprehensible individuals in all of pro sports. And Greg Hardy got KTFO'd, Reem. And Tuivasa was Bam Bam, I think they call him, ended up, to me, being really the star of the evening. Because not only did he put Greg Hardy to sleep, but then he jumped up onto the octagon and drank a beer out of a fan's shoe, and then did 2 more shoe beers on his way out. If you want to talk about a markability, a social media score, a guy that got people talking, Tuivasa, the man they call Bam Bam from New South Wales in Australia, I think was the real breakout star of Saturday night.
Yeah, drinking a beer out of a shoe. I don't think I've done that. Like, what kind of shoe was it, like an Air Jordan or a dress shoe?
I can't remember the first one. I can't remember what the first one was. But then when he was coming back down the walk, someone gave him a pretty nice high-end Jordan. It looked like an Air Force One. And he drank a beer out of that. But then he kind of did. And if you're watching on YouTube, he had that face. And then he spit beer out. What? And then you saw as they opened up the screen, the idiots that were giving him the beer also poured a bunch of Dustin Poirier's hot sauce in it. Oh. So can you imagine crushing a beer with a bunch of hot sauce in it? God, that's churning my stomach just thinking about it. So he walked away. He had the bad taste in his mouth and then grabbed another beer and did another one in the shoe. I think just because he needed to get something into his mouth because it was so disgusting, the one that he just drank out of the Air Jordan with the hot sauce in it. So
that's a tough one, Huss. I mean, you drink random shoe beers, like you never know what's going to be in them. But I think I've looked at hot sauce. It's available in Canada, so I may have to order some of the Poirier hot sauce, just as just to support him as he keeps getting chirped for this illegitimate
absolutely.
victory.
Hey, got to give a shout out to Aaron Bronstetter because Aaron came on, and we always love talking to Aaron. But Aaron gave us some phenomenal picks for the UFC. And the one that I liked the most was that Gilbert Burns going up against Wonder Boy. I think when he was on the program, it was like plus 129. I put a little touch on it and then saw it was getting close to plus 140 before the fight and went back in. So that was very, very nice. And then, of course, we were on Poirier for the win in the main event. And with Tua, I mean, I'd been in a bit of a cold streak. Well, there hadn't been a lot to bet on, really, with hockey and basketball being so light, getting into a little bit of baseball lately. But It pays to talk to smart people. Aaron's certainly one of those smart people when it talks to UFC, when we're talking MMA and UFC. So we appreciate him. UFC 246 was quite the event. Lots of bad blood coming out of it, and I'm sure they'll get ready to go. As far as McGregor goes, I mean, I don't even know whether they go back. He's going to try and get another Poirier fight. Why? I'm not sure. I think the most likely fight is the third fight in the Nate Diaz trilogy, and that I think everyone would probably still pony up for, and we'd forget the embarrassment of last night. Anyways, that was one of the big stories on the weekend. The other, of course, Remo, yesterday was the Euro final between England and Italy. And like many of the games we've seen in the playoff round or the elimination round, it went to penalties. And I can tell you, living in Little Italy in and around Corton, there is a big, big party for hours on the street last night. A lot of people happy, but man, heartbreak again for England. And the way that it went down was, I know those English fans have been through a lot, 66 years without their big title. It seemed like they had it last night. They were ahead in the penalty shootout, and then 3 consecutive misses by the English players in the penalty shootout. Definitely a harsh way to go out for the fans who thought that it was coming home, as they say.
Yeah, I mean, I saw comparisons that England is like the Toronto Maple Leafs of soccer. They have this massive fan base, very popular, and they haven't won anything since the 60s. And to lose it in that fashion where, you get up in penalties and you miss 3 in a row, that's a tough one to take, and I know some England fans took it pretty poorly. And I think we all need to be reminded that this is just a game, and if you lose, you don't need to go and beat anyone up or anything. I think it's amazing that needs to be said, Huss. But one thing I'm gonna be honest, I'm a bit of a casual soccer watcher, and following this tournament, it seems to me like every single big game has gone to penalties. And is this really the best way? Does it need to be examined? You play this whole game and then it seems like every game is tied, and then you just all right, yeah, we're just gonna do penalty kicks. I don't know. It seems like not the best way. I don't have a better way, so I mean that's a great complainer. Yeah, this sucks, and then don't offer a solution. But it seems like to decide these big championships on where game after game is going to penalties. Not ideal. And then again, I'm a casual soccer watcher. Maybe I have no clue about anything. It's entirely possible.
No, I mean, I get it. And I mean, I think even the purists of the game would love it to not go to penalties. I mean, I think ideally, you have it determined and finished up on the field and you get a winner that way. But the nature of soccer is that, you really can't count on, I mean, there's not really a way, I think, we've heard people, and again, some of these are sort of harebrained ideas, but, put less players on the field, almost like you did back in minor hockey. Remember those tournaments where you go to 4 and then 3 and then 2, to get a winner. I just don't really think that there's another alternative. And, it's been a part of the game forever. I think that it will continue to be for it. And to be honest, Reem, that is why you need to have players at that level that are ready for the bright lights and the pressure of taking those free kicks. And the Italian goaltender ended up getting the player of the tournament. And to be honest, I think he really deserved it. He was great throughout the tourney, and making those 3 saves in a row when they needed them was really the difference between being champions and watching England celebrate. So listen, it wasn't the great way to do it, but I got to tell you, when it comes to drama, there really is nothing like it. I mean, imagine, and I know we would never really think about this, but imagine if you had a Stanley Cup Game 7 determined in a shootout. That's basically what happened last night in the Euro 2020.
Yeah, I agree. That would be insane. And I remember we've had big Olympic games or World Juniors with shootouts, and I mean everyone remembers Jonathan Toews scoring 3-4 times, going head to head with Peter Mueller in the World Juniors. I mean, that's one of the most memorable things, but I think in the end, it is like a 1v1 skills competition.
It's a great moment that's a great moment in Canadian hockey history, and we see it over and over. Something tells me that in the U.S. broadcast, they're not waxing poetic about Peter Mueller as much as we are Jonathan Toews. It's all how you remember, and the outcome has a big part in that.
Yeah, well, I remember the 98 Nagano shootout with Canada versus Czech Republic, and Canada and Hasek standing on his head, and Canada not picking Gretzky, but no one really knew what the shootout was in 1998. It was like a foreign thing. I think I'd like to think that they practice it more, although we kind of hear that they don't practice it that often. But I mean, it's a thing. You got to be ready for it, and clearly Italy was on the way to the Euro Cup.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So anyways, congratulations to the Italians. Saw many of my Italian friends out on the street last night whooping it up. And obviously for England, I mean, it was a pretty incredible run. Really sucks for the English fans the way that it ended, but that's the nature of international soccer, and good thing you won't have to wait that long to get to Qatar, and maybe you can bring it home then in the World Cup. So that one other soccer note before we get to Michael Traikos coming up in a couple minutes. Valor FC is now 4-1 on the season. Another big win yesterday. And if you have not seen this already, folks, go to the Valor Twitter feed or go to mine. I retweeted it a couple times. Number 9, I think Austin Ricci on Valor scored a goal yesterday that will, without a doubt, be one of the goals of the year in the entire Canadian Premier League. I mean, an absolutely perfect strike from well outside the box, curling in, hitting the post and going in. It ended up being the difference between a draw. It was the winning goal. And in that crazy heat, Remo, an absolute screamer into the top of the net keeps things going for the local lads who have only dropped one of their first 5 matches and sit atop of the table in the CPL.
Yeah, I know Valor's had some tough times getting settled in here. But they're off to a great start. I had fans in the building, Sunday, and you were there last Wednesday. And sorry, I'm getting a bit distracted here. We do have a trade to announce.
We have a trade to announce. Yeah. Breaking news on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Who broke it? Who is the trade breaker?
I haven't. Who's hashtag first?
Yeah, hashtag first.
I mean, and I scrolled down. The first one I saw was Frank Cervalli, but I'm sure Dreger.
All right, we'll give it to Frank. Frank's our guy. Love it.
I know Dreger and Elliot Friedman were also tweeting, so I don't know who wins. I'm not willing to give a winner to the race, but he says pending trade call. Sounds like Hawks Duncan Keith will indeed be heading to Oilers in exchange for Caleb Jones and a mid-round pick, 3rd or 4th round. Oh, what's the reaction at Edmonton going to be for this one? I don't know. I thought Caleb Jones showed some promise, and they get a pick. Keith making more salary, declining, older player. Obviously veteran, cup experience. I don't know if this is like the impact D, though. I think you look at his advanced numbers, and they've kind of fallen off. So I don't. And isn't Caleb Jones still on an entry deal? I don't know if this is the play.
Here's the thing about this deal. And as far as how it will be received, it's important not to get too tied up in what you see and hear on Twitter, because I think we have now realized that the reactions of people on Twitter is very different than average hockey fans.
Yes.
Like, if you don't have a great chart on Twitter, I mean, don't even bring up the conversation, because it's going to be very, very one-sided. And listen, I've got a lot of time for analytics. I mean, I think, over a large period of time, seasons, it's pretty darn accurate as to what players are doing for their team. But there are a lot of things that go into that. And with a player like Duncan Keith, there are a lot of reasons that the Ken Holland wants Duncan Keith on that club beyond really even things on the ice. I mean, that veteran presence, having the experience, working with some of the younger players. So I'm not out on Duncan Keith. I don't think this is going to be an absolute disaster for the Edmonton Oilers, but it will be interested to get the entire details to see if there's any salary being maintained, as well as what this means for Ken Holland's offseason going forward. Talking with Dusty out in Toronto and listening to Low Tide a little earlier. I mean, this really is Ken Holland's opportunity. Lots of cap room. Making this move today. We'll see what's left afterward. They do have to sign Darnell Nurse. But for the first time in a few years, the Edmonton Oilers can be players in this offseason. It'll be very interesting. We'll get Michael Traikos' reaction on that coming up in just a second. Before we do that, big shout out to our friends at Royal Sports. Was in there on the weekend. Yes, there was a lot of Italy jerseys moving. There was a lot of England jerseys moving. But in addition, we saw so many people picking up disc golf equipment, bikes, fitness. I mean, it really is the superstore for all things summer. Now, if you want to pick up merchandise, whatever league it is, there is simply nowhere in the city, maybe in the country, that comes close to the selection of Royal Sports. But as I said, there's so much more in that. If you're looking for a bike, if you're looking to get outside, maybe spend a little more time getting active, you can take care of everything with one stop over at Royal Sports, 650 Raleigh and EK and 750 Pembina Highway. With the we were the Canadian hotspot yesterday. I saw 34.2. Needless to say, that is absolutely DQ weather. If you hadn't been by and seen our friends Nick and Nikki at any of their 4 DQs, you should definitely do that. DQ Niverville, DQ Northgate, the DQ at Polo Park, and of course the DQ on St. Anne's. Had a cake for an event on the weekend that was an absolutely huge hit. And as Remis told you, he made his debut, had his first Kit Kat Blizzard on the weekend. So pop by any of the 4 Nick and Nikki DQs and tell them your boys at Winnipeg Sports Talk sent you. And I do want to give a shout out to our friend Crystal, who used to take such good care of us at the Boston Pizza City Place during all our pregame shows for the Jets. Popped in there last night, watched a bit of the NBA Finals, had some wings and a pizza. It was great to be back. Of course, the patios are open at all the local BPs, but you can also get inside into the lounges. You can do that. Check out the new summer menu as well, including the honey dill fried chicken sandwich and the burger Italiano, available at all local Boston pizzas. All right, let's get ready for this hockey offseason. And considering we just had a trade, we can get right to this. We welcome in Postmedia's Michael Traikos to the program. Michael, what's going on? Thanks so much for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me on. At least we have something to talk about today.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, we'll get into the Lightning and into the offseason, but we're just hearing the reports that Duncan Keith is in fact going to the Edmonton Oilers. Frank reporting it looks like it's Caleb Jones and a mid-round pick, 3rd or 4th. Haven't heard anything about salary. This has been, I've lots of friends in Edmonton, do some work with Dustin Nielsen. I've been following this story, and it's incredible what a hot topic this has been. Some people think, yeah, absolutely, we'd love to have a guy with the pedigree of Duncan Keith on our blue line, and others say, absolutely no way, this is a terrible idea. What do you make of the conversation around this Keith situation and the fact that the deal looks like it's done?
I like this deal. I get it. You're not getting Duncan Keith, the same guy that won multiple Stanley Cups with Chicago. That was a Norris Trophy winner. That was a Conn Smythe winner. But you're still getting a guy that, can help out in multiple ways. And first off, he's going to help out on the ice. I don't think his play has fallen off to the point where he's not in your top 6, especially when you're talking about the Oilers defense. But more importantly, you've got a team that's drafted a ton of high-end defensemen, whether it's Philip Broberg, whether it's Evan Bouchard. I think Duncan Keith is going to help out tremendously in that regard, even with a guy like Ethan Bear, who saw a ton of minutes this year. And really, you're giving up Caleb Jones and a mid-round pick. Caleb Jones, drafted in the same year as McDavid. I think he played 30-some-odd games this year. Fine, he's an NHLer, but are you going to miss Caleb Jones? Probably not. And as we saw with Montreal this year, having veterans in the lineup, especially if you're a team that has Stanley Cup aspirations, helps out tremendously. You see it with guys like Corey Perry, Eric Stahl, even with a guy like Shea Weber. So, don't worry about what Duncan Keith's play looks like compared to what it used to look like. He's still an NHLer, and I think he's going to be a great guy for these guys to lean on.
While we're talking about Edmonton, I was just sort of leading in that, Ken Holland has some money to spend. Certainly, it's, I think, an attractive landing spot for players considering some of the talent they have at the top of the lineup. What do you make of the way the Oilers season ended, being swept by the Winnipeg Jets, and how different they may look going into next season because of the options that Ken Holland has going into these next few weeks?
I didn't like how the season ended. I don't think if you're an Oilers fan, anyone was really happy with how it ended.
It went over well here.
Yeah, exactly. That being said, Ken Holland's got a lot of moves to make. Duncan Keith is not going to be their final, trade acquisition or free agent acquisition. I think this team seriously needs an upgrade on goaltending. If you're bringing Mike Smith back at his age, you better bring back a guy that's half his age and can also share the net with him. Defense-wise, I think they need some options. I would love, if you're an Oilers fan, I think you'd love for them to take a crack at whether it's Alex Killorn or Philip Deneau and possibly free agency, someone like that. Someone that can maybe take some of the harder minutes away from McDavid and Draisaitl, or, if you're going to put Ryan Nugent-Hopkins on the wing, someone that can play a shutdown role as your number 3 center. But I imagine that they've got a lot of heavy lifting to do. And if I'm Ken Holland, if you got the 2 best players in the league, or arguably the 2 best players in the league, it's up to you to really fill the roster fill it around them so that they can, have success in the playoffs, something that they haven't had yet.
Michael, they're currently continuing the party in Tampa. Back-to-back champs, the Lightning, are doing their boat parade today. Many Bud Lights are being drank, apparently, as we've seen. Kucherov's got his new sponsorship deal. I guess first off, I'll ask you about just how good this team is and how we'll remember this squad. And then, kind of to what we just said, how much work Julien Brisebois is going to have to do to be cap compliant when we get to the opening day of next season.
Yeah, honestly, I could see them winning 3 cups in a row. I think of all the teams that had a chance to win 3 in a row, and Pittsburgh, they were up there with them. I think the Lightning have the best chance just because their core hasn't really changed. I know they're going to probably have to lose maybe Tyler Johnson, Blake Coleman. I think Barclay Goodrow is also a free agent, if I'm not mistaken, but a number of players are coming off, even David Savard on the back end. But Stamkos is back, Kucherov's back, Point's back, Vasilevsky's back, and Hedman's back. Right there, you've got a chance. And whenever you've got that core, I think the fact that they're going into the season, in my mind, as the Stanley Cup favorites, regardless of what the cap situation looks like, regardless of what who might be coming off their 3rd, 4th lines or their 2nd or 3rd pairing defense. This team is the real deal. So, I would put them up there with, some of the best dynasties that we've seen in the NHL, whether it's those, Oilers teams from the 80s or the Islanders teams right before that, or most recently, like the Detroit Red Wings of the 90s and the Chicago Blackhawks. So, I love this team. They'll be cap compliant, and they've got so many guys in the minors that really they'd be in the NHL on any other team. I think like Boris Kachuk had a hell of a season in the AHL this year, was a Team Canada guy. He can't even get into this lineup. That's how star-studded it is. So, they'll be fine.
I thought the same thing with Matthew Joseph. And you just saw what he does in the lineup. Like, how many other teams are looking at a player like that going, my God, this guy's a black ace in the taxi squad for them? I mean, you'd probably play, absolutely in the top 9. Stamkos is interesting. I have heard some speculation that he could potentially be moved. I mean, I believe he's got a no move. I mean, that would seem pretty drastic. I mean, is that just off-season fodder with not much else to talk about, or do you think that's at all a possibility that they could move a player like that potentially in this off-season?
Hey, if you take out Stamkos' salary, that solves a lot of problems. But like you said, he's the captain, he's under contract, he's got a no movement clause, and he loves it down there. I really can't see him leaving. Why would you leave a team right now where, like I said, they're going into the season as the Stanley Cup favorites? Stamkos isn't the same Stamkos that he was when he was scoring 61 goals. He's not even a center anymore. That being said, he's money on the power play. I think he was still top 5 in playoff scoring this year. Still had his name up there in the regular season scoring. So, I really think it's going to come down to just removing guys like Tyler Johnson, Alex Killorn. But if there's a team interested in Steven Stamkos, you're still getting a good player, and it's really up to Steven, I think, at this time.
Now, Michael, I've got to ask you, what have you thought of the Tampa Bay Lightning's collective act after winning the Cup, starting with the Kucherov interview afterwards? Now they're out wearing shirts that say 18 million over the cap. I mean, where do you come in on all of this seemingly trolling by the Stanley Cup champions to everybody else?
Hey, you know what? More power to them. They took a ton of grief. Let's not forget, when they went out in the first round a couple years ago to Columbus, they heard about it every single where they went. Like, I remember them coming into Toronto in the beginning of the season. It was all we were asking them. I remember at the awards, I think it was the same year Vasilevsky won Vezina, Kucherov won the Hart. And the whole time it wasn't like, hey, what a great season it was. It was, hey, how did you just lay the biggest egg in the first round? So, you know what? They took their lumps, and now it's time for them to kind of laugh it off. And, you know, the whole Kucherov thing, and the over the cap situation, in their minds, they didn't do anything wrong. And everyone else's minds, it looks totally fishy. But you know what? Toronto did the same thing in regards to grabbing Nick Foligno to make him cap compliant. I think it was Frederick Anderson that they just had on the IRL. No one complained about that. So, you know, I get how it looks. Optics are optics, but, you know, let them have their fun. And it is fun. We're talking about hockey here. We're talking about entertainment. More power to them. You know,
listen,
now they just have to back it up, right?
Yeah, I mean, they're playing the heel big time. I mean, like, the shirts, I think, are a little tacky, to be honest. I mean, like, whatever. But it's sort of, I was saying to Remis, this would be like, you know, say, let's use a professional wrestling analogy. It's like guys win the tag team titles by other members of their faction interfering and then show up with a shirt with all the guys beating the hell out of everyone and the ref looking the other way. I mean, it is a heel move. But honestly, I'm here for it because, like, I'm just thinking about Tampa's reaction when they go to Montreal next year. I mean, some just general fans around the league. And you know what? That's, I think, a good thing for the National Hockey League. You want people to have a strong opinion one way or the other. And I think a lot of people know that this is a great hockey team. And you know what? If they're rubbing a lot of people the wrong way, that's not going to be a bad thing when we drop the puck on next season.
I love it. It reminds me of the whole bunch of jerks things with the Carolina Hurricanes. And you know what? I think every sports league needs a team to kind of hate. And, you know, for forever in Canada, it's always the Toronto Maple Leafs. So now, you know, if you can hate on the Tampa Bay Lightning, if they've sort of become the city of Boston in the sense that they just keep winning championship after championship. Now they got Tom Brady as well. He keeps winning. It comes with the territory. I think every city would take what they've had and, you know, maybe some of the abuse that they have right now. It beats the alternative. And, you know, I'd love to, you know, that first game in Montreal, yeah, count me down. I'm going down to that city. I want to see that firsthand, let's be honest.
Speaking of the Habs, pretty incredible run. You know, the 3 rounds that they won, the way they did it was a special run. They ran into a buzzsaw in the Stanley Cup final. But looking at, you know, that roster coming out of this season, I mean, there are a lot of unrestricted free agents, you know, some older like Perry and Stahl, some younger like Danault, who, you know, will be in demand despite not having big offensive numbers. What do you make of the job that Marc Bergevin has on his hands over the course of the next month and a bit?
Of all the teams that are going into the Atlantic Division, you know, I think Montreal could easily miss the playoffs. Are they better than Tampa? No. Are they better than Toronto, like regular season wise? No. I think Florida's ahead of them. I think Boston is ahead of them. So they're in a mix right now where they're going to be a wild card team in my mind to make the playoffs. And when you look at what's happening at the Metro in that division, where you got Pittsburgh, you got Washington, you've got the Islanders and the Rangers team that, let's face it, they're going to be so motivated to make the playoffs this year. New coach, new GM. So the Montreal Canadiens, right now I'm calling it, I think they missed the playoffs this year. And I think it's really going to be up to Marc Bergevin and a lot of those young guys to really take that kind of next step. But yeah, they've got their hands full. This was a magical run. And when we're talking about magical Cinderella type runs, we're not talking about, you know, doing it again and again. Usually it's one and done. And I could see that happening right now.
Michael, well, we've got you here. The big talk in Winnipeg has been, of course, about the blue line. Especially when Dylan DeMello went down in Game 1 against Montreal, it sort of exposed that they were putting together, had some guys maybe playing higher up. Your thoughts on Winnipeg going into the offseason and Kevin Sheldayoff's quest to upgrade the blue line here in the Peg?
You know what, Winnipeg, such a weird team. Like on paper, I thought they were the best team in Canada, or at least up there with Toronto. And really, I thought I'd give Winnipeg the edge just because of Connor Hellebuck. And as much as we criticized that defense throughout the year, really the defense didn't let them down. It's not like they didn't get past the Oilers because of their defense. I think it was just, their top guns, they didn't get past the Canadians, because of their defense. I just thought, the top guns, Scheifele went out and then no one else could score. But really, that Winnipeg team, I guess we've been saying it for years, they're primed to kind of take that next step. Really, the guy I'm looking at is the guys down the center. You're not worried about Scheifele, but is Pierre-Luc Dubois able to take that next step and be a legit number 2 center? Can he produce as one? Can he be as consistent as one? And I think that's the challenge for Paul Maurice, is finding the wingers that can really kind of make sure that he's consistent, offensively, but also if he's going to be your sort of quote unquote two-way center, can he take some growth in that regard too? Because we've seen flashes of it. Obviously, we saw it against Toronto a couple years ago when he was part of the Blue Jackets, but have we seen it for a full season? We haven't seen that yet. So that's the big question mark in my mind. Not so much the defense, but how good are they up the middle, and can that really help them?
You bring up Dubois, and you being out of this market, I'm interested in your perspective on that trade, because it didn't work out for the Jets. It certainly didn't look like it worked out for the Columbus Blue Jackets, and you have such high-end young star players moving forward. Do you think this was just a matter of a difficult time being traded mid-season in a weird year of these guys getting acclimatized? Because there's no doubt these are both top NHL players, but neither of them really seemed like they were very comfortable in their new homes last year, Michael.
Yeah, you know what? The best guy out of that whole trade was Jack Roslovic. and who would have thought? That almost seemed like it was just going to be a toss-in, but you're right. Laine didn't look comfortable, definitely under Tortorella, didn't have the center to play with, and Dubois, for whatever reason, could never kind of get it going offensively in a consistent manner. So, right now, I don't know who won the trade, who lost the trade. I think it was one of those ones where if you're a top-end pick and a top prospect and you're getting traded at that age, well, you've got some warts in your game. And I think both players definitely had some things that they still have to shore up. I still don't like the trade from Winnipeg's perspective, just because I always think, who got the best talent in the trade? And in my mind, I think Columbus still got the best player. In Laine, I still think this guy is going to win a Rocket Richard before he's done. He might even win multiple ones. But really, it's just, can Dubois play center good enough to not miss Laine? Because, if you're Winnipeg, you still got Ehlers, you still got Kyle Connor, you still got guys who can put the puck in the net on the wing. It's just, how much better are you with Dubois at the center spot rather than having Laine on the wing? And I guess time will tell in that regard.
What do you think happens this offseason in Columbus? I mean, they have sort of, they were competitive for a while. It seems they've really taken a step back. Torts is out, of course. They've got a new head coach. Pascal Vincent, former Moose head coach, is now on the coaching staff as an assistant. But it seems like Jarmo Kekalainen's got a lot of work to do. And you wonder, in his spot, is it more trying to make sure this team is competitive right now, or does he have the rope, Michael, to sort of look long-term and big picture and maybe commit to some tough times for Columbus in the next season or two to try to really become a Stanley Cup contender down the road?
Yeah, honestly, I have a feeling it's the latter. There's a couple good drafts coming up. Next year's with Shane Wright, and the year after with Connor Bedard. I think a lot of teams are already starting to get their ducks in a row and saying, you know what, if we can land one of those guys, that can make a huge difference. We're talking about potential franchise players. And when you look at, Seth Jones is probably on his way out. It looks like keeping and retaining talent in Columbus is going to be a real difficult thing for them to keep going forward here. I just think it's one of those years where don't even bother about looking at Columbus. I think they're going to be out of the playoffs, and it's just going to be one of those rebuilding years for them. And a lot of teams are in that regard too.
Well, and Seth Jones is an interesting case. I mean, such a talented young defenseman, did not have a good year last year.
No.
Now, many people that, only pay attention to analytics are completely out on Seth Jones. I have a feeling most of the NHL GMs still see a guy that can help teams win hockey games going forward. But what a difficult situation for Columbus to be in. I mean, with 1 year before unrestricted free agency, it doesn't look like he's going to sign long term. I know they're letting them talk to other people, but I have a hard time imagining in this current climate with what's happened with the cap that Seth Jones is in a better situation to get traded and sign a long-term deal right now than sort of playing out this season and seeing what happens on the open market next year. And that's not a great position to be in if you're a GM.
Yeah, you know what? With Seth Jones in Columbus, whether it's Jack Eichel in Buffalo, there's a lot of teams now that are really kind of evaluating their current roster and saying, you know what, we need some sort of shakeup. And you know what, there's a Seth Jones available, there's a Jack Eichel available. Maybe in Toronto there could be a William Nylander or a Mitch Marner available. I'm not saying that they are, but there seems to be that idea that superstars could be on the move more so than ever right now. And it really is interesting to kind of see where, the dominoes are going to fall in that regard. But yeah, I'm kind of with you. In the current climate with the cap, no one seems to be getting the money that they think that they deserved or that they were going to get 3 years ago. And I think that's probably playing into that. The other part is, if you're an NHLer in your mid-20s, you're looking around saying, you know what, is my team going to be competitive in the next 2 years? And if not, am I better off maybe just saying, you know what, move me to a team that I can maybe win a cup with, or at least maximize my value and, get some money in the free agent market? Because, does Seth Jones have a bad year because Columbus was just awful this year and no one wanted to play for Tortorella? Or Columbus, were they bad because Seth Jones didn't have a good year? In Seth Jones' mind, he might be saying, you know what, put me on a good team and you'll see me compete for the Norris, because that's where myself and a lot of people think this guy's game is that he's going to win a Norris before he's done. It's just, is he going to do it in Columbus? It doesn't look like it.
Michael Traikos of Postmedia with us here on Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. You mentioned Mitch Marner. I've got to ask you about and I know things. I feel
like I'm going to regret saying his name.
Yeah. No, but I'm just interested. I mean, you followed that team very closely for a long time and covered them. I mean, it seemed like when he didn't produce and they lost the way they did, everything that happened, all the contentious nature of the negotiation where he and his people really bent the Leafs over and squeezed every single dollar out is sort of, in some ways, coming back to light. How would you characterize Mitch Marner's place within Leaf Nation right now with the fan base, not the organization, and assuming that he's on the Leafs next year? What does that do to the pressure on Mitch Marner through the regular season, which I think most people would agree he's fine in the regular season? It's all about the playoffs where he hasn't been producing.
Yeah, it's a tough spot. And, every hockey player in every market is going to face this. They love you when you're making pennies on the dollar and you're overperforming for what you're getting paid. Once you get that big salary, it's almost like they're just looking for reasons to tear you down. And we're kind of seeing it this year with Zach Hyman, where everyone's saying, wow, for what he's making, what great value. And, oh, yeah, basically he's making like a third of what Mitch Marner's making. Well, Zach Hyman's going to get paid this year, whether it's by Toronto or another team. And, if he doesn't put 20 to 25 goals up, the criticism is going to follow. So I think that's the challenge for Mitch Marner. The challenge is really, if you're playing in Toronto right now, the regular season doesn't mean anything. It's just kind of get through there and try to do what Montreal did, try to do what Tampa has done, is get over that hump. And until they get there, it's going to be a hell of a season for this Toronto Maple Leafs, because, from day one to, game 82, it's just going to be about, okay, well, what's going to be different this year in the playoffs? Like, I don't care. Fans don't care that Mitch Marner is going to finish in the top 3 or top 5 in scoring. All they're going to care about is, okay, playoffs started. What are you going to do now? And if it's going to be that long kind of mental battle for this team all year long, because, it's been year after year after year of just not making it past that first round. And until they get past that hump, the questions are going to be there.
Can they sign Hyman? And if they do, to keep him, what are the other dominoes that will have to fall for Dubas?
It's crazy to think how they can sign Hyman and have a downgrade in net, whether it's losing Frederik Andersen to free agency or losing some depth on defense. Maybe it's Morgan Riley, who I think is going to be up in another year, or even just some depth at the forward spot, whether it's a guy like Alex Kerfoot or someone else. And, fine, you don't mind missing Alex Kerfoot, but who replaces him? And that's the thing is when Oilers are facing this too. Like when you've got so much money tied up in your stars, it really kind of ties your hands as to who you have in the rest of the roster. And we saw with Tampa, like, fine, Kucherov led this team offensively, and so did Point in the playoffs. But don't tell me that Tampa's going to win without the contributions of Blake Coleman or Barclay Goodrow or even Tyler Johnson and Yanni Gord. So you need your third line guys, you need your fourth line guys. And if you can't pay more than the minimum wage for those guys, you're not going to get value. And I think that's the challenge for Toronto, is that there's so much pressure on the Marners and the Matthews to produce because they don't have many other options after that. And there's so much pressure on a guy like Jack Campbell going forward now, especially if you don't have the money to retain Frederik Andersen. So, I don't envy the position that Kyle Dubas is in.
It is going to be a fascinating offseason, compounded by the fact that we've got an expansion draft in less than 2 weeks. Michael, on the weekend, we will get the protected lists from the National Hockey League. I believe it's the 17th. 4 days later is the expansion draft. What do you expect to see next week? Will we see some deals happen before we get to Wednesday? Will the deals happen afterwards? And I don't know if you have a thought on how Ron Francis is going to approach this. I mean, will there be a lot of stockpiling of just the best players, and many of those players picked by Seattle end up on other teams by the time next season starts?
Yeah, I don't think we're going to see the sort of trades that we saw with Vegas. I think so many GMs are wise to the fact that it just wasn't worth it. Like saying, okay, please don't take this guy, and here's a first round pick, and here's a prospect for not taking, player A. I don't think that's going to happen this year. What I will say is the stockpiling is going to be real. And we saw it with Vegas where I think they took something like 12 defensemen that year. It was like double what they needed or were they allowed to take. But, we're going to see, I think, the similar thing where, if defense is valued, they're going to take as many as they can and then possibly flip those defensemen to teams that are, very light on the back end and make trades that way. But yeah, as creative as you can be, I think Ron Francis is going to take that approach. But I also don't think that he's looking to follow the Vegas' model in the sense that they have to be competitive right out of the gates. For the same reason I said that Columbus and other teams are eyeing the next two drafts, I think Seattle's got to be looking the same way. And if you followed Ron Francis in Carolina, you saw that this is a guy that's incredibly patient, wanted to build the right way, and you're seeing the fruits of that labor now with the Hurricanes. And I wouldn't be surprised if Seattle takes a page out of that book and says, you know what, let's worry about what this team looks like 5 years from now, not what it looks like out of the gates.
Michael, this has been so much fun having you on the program. Thanks so much. Just quickly on the way out, what was it like being back in a building watching live hockey again? I knew you were there for the Cup final. It'd been a while, huh?
It was amazing. And I'm still skeptical that there were only, 25 or 3,500 fans in that building.
Allegedly.
It looked packed. It sounded packed. It didn't sound like they were just piping noise in. It sounded real, and I loved it. And you don't realize what you have until you miss it. And it was one of those examples. And I got to say that the hot dogs, especially in the Bell Center, for anyone who hasn't had them, they're just amazing, and they live up to the hype.
It was a championship level meal for the media there when you get those the shows up from the bottom level. Hey, Michael, Thanks so much for doing this. It's going to be a real interesting next few weeks in the National Hockey League. Hopefully we can get together again sometime, but have a great summer. Enjoy it, because puck drop's going to be here before we know it in a few months.
All right. Thanks so much.
Thanks so much. There's Michael Traikos. You can read all his work on the Postmedia chain covering the National Hockey League. Great to have Michael join the program. Always enjoy his company here on Winnipeg Sports Talk and really appreciate him doing that. We've got some Bomber talk to come up. Training camp underway. Before we do that, I want to give a shout out to our friends at Not Autocorp for their great support of Winnipeg Sports Talk since day one. Thinking about a new vehicle? Well, why not get an incredible deal on the car of your dreams with the help of the Not team? All makes and models, including the biggest selection of Tesla vehicles here in Winnipeg for many years. pop down to Waverly and McGillivray and see what is there. You can talk to the experts. And if you're in a vehicle right now on a lease or looking to upgrade, we've got an incredible consignment program that will help you get max value for your present car while you get into a new whip for you and the family. Not Autocorp, Waverly and McGillivray, not .ca. They'll also detail your vehicle, service your vehicle, whatever you need. The Knot Gang has you covered. I hope you all enjoyed the weekend, and I would imagine I saw a few tweets. There was many of these coming out. The amazing Little Brown Jug summer lagers. Had a few of the summer lager, got into the Hefeweizen a bit, and of course the goat of the Little Brown Jug, and really the local beers, I think to most people, the one and only 1919. Now, you can still get it on home delivery, simply easier than ever by going to littlebrownjug.ca. But now that we're opened up a little bit, maybe you're looking to get out, pop by the tap room on William Avenue. You can pick up all the Little Brown Jug products there. Great merchandise. But sit out on their deck at a table with some friends, have a few Little Brown Jugs and maybe a couple slices of pizza as well. It's all there, littlebrownjug.ca for home delivery, or pop down and see them at the tap room on William Avenue. And of course, Breezy Bend Country Club. Big shout out to Corey and the gang over at Breezy. There was some action. We always hit all of our golf news on the program. We had Bin Lee win in the Scottish Open heading into the Open Championship. You had Lucas Glover win the John Deere. But big congratulations to Bobby Ohl of Shiloh Country Club. She is the Diamond Athletic Women's Amateur Champion, winning in a 3-hole playoff Sunday at Niagara. And I've got to give a shout out to a golfing legend in Manitoba. Todd Fanning of Niagara won the Diamond Athletic Men's Mid-Amateur Championship on his home course. Fan Manor chipped in on 17 and then holed a shot from the sand for another birdie on the 18th to shoot a 1-under par and finish atop the leaderboard, 4 strokes better than Jordy Lutz of Elmhurst. So big congratulations to Bobby Ohl and Todd Fanning. And a big shout out to our friends at Breezy Bend for their great support. I hear the course is absolutely mint right now. And if you didn't win our first contest with Little Brown Jug and Breezy Bend, we'll be firing up another one heading into the August long weekend. You can find out more about Breezy Bend and maybe get you and the family on their waiting list for next year at breezybend.ca or give Corey Johnson a call. All right, it was so great to see the Bombers back on the field this weekend. Training camp is underway around the Canadian Football League, and our guy Darrin Bauming joins us now on Winnipeg Sports Talk to fill us in on the 99 players in Bombers camp. A busy crew and a busy group of media for the first time in a while, and I imagine the sunscreen was in effect and the fans were being used. Bauming, welcome to Winnipeg Sports Talk, pal. It's great to see you again. How was the weekend?
Yeah, weekend was great. Great to be back on with you, Huss. Been watching and just trying to get amped up like a lot of the players on the field at Blue Bombers camp for these first few days. But it's so refreshing to be back watching live sports in person. It is unfortunate. I should mention this because I've had a lot of fans reach out. Training camp as of right now is closed to the public. So usually there's dozens and dozens. And I even remember training camp on those beautiful weekend days in 2019, over 100 fans at IG Field. They are closed right now. Us and the media are able to sit in, which is good, but COVID protocols keeping fans away right now, but boy, it sure feels good to be back in the swing of things. And I know the Bombers, you start talking to them, they're really excited to be back at it too.
Well, were they ever? And at Mad DB, I mean, listening to your reporting and everything else coming out of day one of camp, I mean, everyone was fired up to get back out there after everything they've been through. But, you know, listening to the players speak about day one of camp, I mean, you would think they literally just picked up right where they left off, and where they left off was being the best damn team in the CFL and raising the Grey Cup. I mean, you could just feel the excitement. And, you know, many players making a point of saying, I mean, this has been unlike any camp that we've been before. Sounds like the guys have been ultra prepared, or at least the guys that we remember coming back. And that's going to make it a lot tougher for the new guys trying to crack the lineup to get spots on the team.
Yeah, like horses ready to come out of the gate. They're champing at the bit and excited to get going. But you're right. Those first few days when it has been a lot of fitness and conditioning, obviously, with those 4 players, including 2 defensive starters, the Saskatchewan Roughriders, all suffering Achilles tendon injuries within a 10-minute span. It being such a long layoff for all of these athletes across the CFL, fitness, conditioning, monitoring their health, easing them back into regular football activity has been extremely important, both here in Winnipeg and across the league and for all 9 teams. But guys are pumped. Like they've been waiting for this. And I think it goes beyond just playing football and being in those group activities. It's being back in the room. It's seeing your friends. It's seeing your teammates. Some of those guys maybe you haven't been in close contact with, on Zoom or social media or whatever it is during this long layoff. 600 days. I think we're right around now since the Blue Bombers had that parade downtown and players started, going their separate ways into that winter. But you're right in saying that it really was kind of picking up right where they left off. Buck Pierce, the new offensive coordinator, well, you'd be surprised to know it's his first year because he's already calling audibles and, switching things up on the fly. He's got the radio headset on right now, talking to Zach Collaros in his helmet, calling plays at the line of scrimmage. It's full on action. And, as much as they're easing the bodies into things after the long layoff, they're really going 100% when it comes to the actual football we're seeing on the field.
Darrin Bauming with us talking Blue Bomber training camp. There's a couple things I want to get to. Speaking of newcomers, to me, maybe the biggest question mark is how the Bombers will handle the loss of Justin Medlock with how important he's been. I know there's a lot of talk about Mark Leggio. And, it's funny, Darrin, I mentioned the Bombers brought 100 players to camp, but only 1 kicker. What do you make of that? Essentially, here is the job. Go and get it. Don't worry about being challenged for it. And what's the rookie saying about the big opportunity?
Well, first things first, there's 2 sides to that coin when you bring 1 kicker to camp. If it's Justin Medlock, well, no brainer. He's going to be your guy. But if it's a Canadian rookie from the 2020 draft class that has never kicked professionally before, it raises a little bit of concern. That is he going to be the guy? Is he going to be mentally and physically able to do it? Now, physically, by all accounts, Mark Leggio is more than capable. Was a phenomenal kicker and punter in U Sports at Western University, playing for the Mustangs over the last number of years, was all Canadian in 2019, his final season there. He really had a chip on his shoulder, or at least wanted to prove to people that he was the best kicker in Canada outside of the professional ranks. The Bombers invested, a mid-round draft pick on him in 2020, and now here he is, being the only guy. It shows a lot of confidence that the team has. That's the other side of the coin. Concern, but there's confidence. He's their guy. And I think it really reassured him. And, what Kyle Walters and Mike O'Shea said over the winter was reiterated by Mark Leggio when we spoke to him yesterday, that when Mike O'Shea and Kyle Walters said, we want Mark to be Mark. We don't want him to try to be Justin Medlock or fill those absolutely enormous kicking boots that Justin Medlock left here in Winnipeg. We want Mark to be Mark. And Mark Leggio said that meant a lot to him and reassured him. I think right now, when it comes to kicking, it's a huge mental part of it. It's a huge mental game. We know he can boot it. He's on social media showing that he can kick it from 70 yards. Maybe he's got a little wind, but there's no pressure when he's just in a park all alone. It's going to be different when there's 35,000 fans screaming in his ear at Mosaic Stadium, for the Labor Day Classic, that sort of thing. But he's got a veteran long snapper. He's got a phenomenal special teams coordinator in Paul Boudreau Jr. here in Winnipeg. So for Legs, as his friends call him, what a great nickname for a kicker. He's confident and ready to go. And I will say to you, Hustler, I like the nickname you and Remis were talking about for him, the Leg. More singular. He's the only kicker the Blue Bombers have. He's the Leg here in Winnipeg.
Yeah, and listen, I'll say this. I get what they're doing, kind of, allowing him to come in without the pressure of a kickoff every day in camp. But again, there's no preseason games. It will be trial by fire for this young guy. And, it's a production-based business. He'll have every opportunity to show that he is the guy and go forward. But if the team is losing football games, and I'm not suggesting that will be the case, but much like we saw with Liran Hajrullahu a few years ago, at a certain point, you get to the point where there's other kickers out there that they can bring in. But I just found that interesting that they had the confidence in him that, you know, Medlock's gone and all right, we've got our succession plan. He's ready to go and go forward. Outside of Leggio, let's talk about, and again, well, first of all, how would you characterize the first few days? I mean, we talked to Ed Tate on Friday, and he said he believed the plan was certainly going to be more based on fitness and conditioning. And then you alluded to the absolutely bizarre situation out of Saskatchewan coming out with those 4 Achilles injuries, which have no doubt just sent chills throughout every front office in the league. How would you characterize what the team did to get things going at camp over the course of the weekend, workout-wise?
I would describe it as measured and calculated. Alain Couture, the longtime Blue Bombers trainer and essentially head of athletic therapy for the Blue Bombers, on the field on day 1 and day 2, well, really every day, as he always has been in his time here in Winnipeg, but being very involved, especially in those warm-up sessions and the running sessions that the players have been put through the first 3 days of camp here. Tuesday, tomorrow, will be another day of conditioning. Wednesday is when they expect it to be kind of that first real day of camp. Now, they are, as I mentioned, doing football things. They're running the offense, they're running the defense, they're installing the playbook, which is very important. Every professional team, every amateur team does that install in the early going to make sure the X's and O's in every player's head are where they need to be. But when it comes to their health, it goes beyond just ensuring that, they're taking ice baths and they're stretching and they're taking care of things. They're really monitoring the health and fitness level of these individuals, because they're coming from all corners of North America, and in Theodric Hansen's case, from the other side of the world. And they've all been doing different things during this pandemic time, whether it's a garage in their gym or a gym in their garage, or whether it's a gym down the street, or whether they've been working out with teammates or otherwise, or all alone. Those levels are very different. So they're just being very calculated and careful, especially in the early going here. That was a really freakish and scary thing in Saskatchewan. Larry Dean, big free agent signing to replace future Hall of Famer Solomon Elimimian. Boom, done for the season. It's brutal to see.
I've never heard of anything like that ever. I mean, there's teams that have had a few guys go down with injury, but I mean, 4 Achilles injuries in 10 minutes. I mean, it honestly doesn't seem possible. And I mean, a huge blow to the Riders. And as I mentioned, I mean, not only executives going, oh man, but I mean, the players themselves, I think, realizing that, there are maybe some unique dangers in this case because of how long everyone's been off, and, you need to be careful going forward. And certainly I think we've seen CFL teams do that. Now, keeping in mind that we haven't had a lot of real football activity, but you've been there. Any newcomers kind of stand out to you as far as maybe just size, stature, how they looked amongst others? Because this is as much a season of continuity for the Bombers. But as we've talked about before, both on and off the air, I really do think we're going to get to week 6 or week 7 of the Canadian Football League season, and we'll be talking on a regular basis about players that, frankly, most of us don't even know who they are right now. I really do think there'll be somewhat of a changing of the guard with some young talent coming in and getting the opportunity to shine early.
No question about that. I'll start with a player people here in Winnipeg should know about, because he is a experienced veteran in the CFL and is going to take on a very important role here in Winnipeg in one of those starting defensive back spots, 2 vacated over the offseason by Winston Rose and Marcus Sayles. Of course, Rose with the Cincinnati Bengals in the NFL. Marcus Sayles, time with the Minnesota Vikings, now signing a 3-year deal, and good for him with the BC Lions. But Josh Johnson is a 5-year veteran of the CFL, bit of a journeyman, time with Edmonton most recently. Very versatile player, hard hitter is how I remember him playing against the Blue Bombers in seasons past. But I found it really, really interesting to hear Adam Bighill, really that emotional and veteran leader on the Blue Bombers defense, rave about Josh Johnson being a big part of their defense. And we're 2 days at that time into camp. spoke very highly of his football IQ and his understanding of the Canadian game, being versatile, being able to play corner, halfback, even strong side linebacker, that dime back spot in a pinch. I think that's a real stabilizing free agent addition that Kyle Walters made with those two key departures. As far as the defense, Ranthony Teixeira is one player I'm watching amongst the defensive backs. Deatrick Nichols led the XFL with 3 interceptions in their shortened season back in 2020 before they halted things, of course. There's 20 rookie defensive backs nearly in Blue Bombers training camp. So there's a lot of guys, and we haven't seen any one-on-ones or real team drills where they're covering receivers yet, but that's the critical key position battle I'm watching for. As far as offense, Cam Meredith, you guys had him on, him and his little girl on Winnipeg Sports Talk last week. That was a great interview you guys did, and she really showed the character and the type of family man he is, wanting to play football, but doing it here in Winnipeg where he now lives with his partner. I think that's a pretty cool backstory for him. But as far as on the field, Cam Meredith looks legit. Like he's NFL size, NFL speed, and smooth. Looks really fluid running, running his routes. I think he's somebody the Blue Bombers, at least here in the early going, before we're really getting into it, they expect a lot of him. And boy, he's going to push Rasheed Bailey. He's going to push Kenny Lawler. Of course, a Canadian like Nick Dembski is probably going to be a starter no matter what. They're going to need him to be. And Darvin Adams, being a veteran, how much more gas does he have left in the tank? I think he absolutely can, be a 1,000-yard receiver with a quarterback like Zach Collaros at the helm. But really, I don't know if Winnipeg's getting the respect across the league and people I talk to, Huss, about their level of talent at receiver. Cam Meredith, fresh out of the NFL, I think he's somebody that is really going to open some eyes and maybe change some opinions, at least going into the season.
No doubt about it. Hey, shout out to everyone that's with us here live on YouTube right now. The infamous DQ Nick has just entered the chat, saying a shout out to fellow Husky alum Darrin Bauming. And I see everyone's talking about the blizzards they had on the weekend. Always love to see that. Hey, if you are with us on YouTube, do the boys a favor. Give us hit that thumbs up. Give us some likes. You need to get that up to continue to spread the channel. And if you haven't already, subscribe, please. We'll be doing a lot of this talking Bombers as we get closer to the 5th of August. DB, one of the other very interesting, things to look at in this camp, of course, is the quarterback situation. There's no more important position. The quarterback carousel, if you will, in the 2019 season was one of legend with Matt Nichols and Chris Streveler, and then Zach Collaros. Collaros has still played one regular season game for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Of course, he's 4-0, 3-0, most importantly in the playoffs. First of all, how about the hair on Collaros? Major mud flaps going on. He's, like many people, didn't spend a lot of time around the barber. But all jokes aside, Collaros is the guy. McGuire's the number 2. Have you seen anything from McGuire? And what about the battle for the third quarterback position? Because as we all know, guys that are afterthoughts at one point in the season could have the most important job if fate dictates throughout a long football season.
Absolutely. Well, let's start from the top down. Zach Collaros, that flow. Yeah, he was hunkered down during the pandemic in Southern Ontario, like many of us Canadians were, with his family and just letting it go. I think he's going to get a cut soon. I've kind of heard a little rumor about that, but we'll see how that happens. I like the way it looks flowing out of the helmet for a quarterback like that.
Oh, that's awesome.
Little Trevor Lawrence vibe there, like that. So, Willie Jefferson mentioned today that he's seeing Zach Collaros look a lot more fluid and a lot more comfortable. I can't imagine how challenging that was for Collaros to come in, play that final, spend a week or two here, then play that final regular season game, and then really kind of be thrust into it in those 3 playoffs games. He handled it with aplomb. He was frankly awesome. And a big reason I thought Andrew Harris had so much time and space to operate, especially in the Grey Cup, because defenses started respecting the arm of Zach Collaros and the pass game of the Blue Bombers in 2019, much more than maybe they did with Chris Streveler or Matt Nichols. So for Collaros, it's no longer just learning the game plan. Okay, we're playing Saskatchewan in the West Final, or we're playing Calgary in the semi, or we're playing Hamilton in the Grey Cup and just working on that game plan. He can now really absorb the entire idea of the Blue Bombers offense. I think that's going to serve extremely well. And he looks good too, throwing the football here early. As far as Sean Maguire, I don't think there's much competition for that number 2 spot. It doesn't matter who you are or what year it is or what team it is. You need experience to be an effective CFL quarterback. And gosh forbid, if something happened to Zach Collaros, it would be Sean Maguire's offense to run. He has a lot of great physical tools, Hustler. Everybody I've spoken with really raves about his IQ and understanding of the playbook and understanding of these interesting nuances that are so different here in Canada from what these quarterbacks have lived and breathed in football as quarterbacks in America. So I think Sean Maguire is somebody that, with no preseason, they're really going to get the most they can out of him during training camp. And then you have that battle for number 3. Only 2 quarterbacks on the active roster this year. That's a change from seasons past in the CFL. They'll only dress 2. So, it's going to be Collaros and Sean Maguire, but it's Dalton Sneed and Drew Brown, and 2 players from 2 different subdivisions in the NCAA. Drew Brown, Division I, time in Hawaii, and then Oklahoma State with the Cowboys. Very smart quarterback, athletic, and a good arm on him. And then Dalton Sneed, a little bit more to the ilk of a lot of successful quarterbacks in the CFL over the last number of years, in playing in the Big Sky Conference in FCS Division I, but in that Championship Bowl series. So that second level of NCAA football. Went to the University of Montana, the alma mater of Dave Dickenson, but playing in that Big Sky Conference, whether it's Michael Riley, the BC Lions, Dave Dickenson, so many others, that's been a conference where a lot of good quarterback talent has come out of. So they're going to see what they got in these guys. In the end, they all have the physical tools. They can all huck the pill downfield and be accurate doing it. It's the understanding of, the uniqueness of 12-man football here in Canada.
Darrin Bauming with us here on Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily, dropping all the 4-on-1 on Winnipeg Blue Bomber training camp, which got going on Saturday. What was up with Harris today? Did he was gone for a little bit. Nothing to worry about for Bomber fans right now. That's a very important name in the Bomber squad that you want to make sure is 100% when things get going on the 5th of August.
Extremely important, of course. Andrew Harris, poof, kind of just vanished. But, we got word from Mike O'Shea that Harris had an appointment. So it doesn't seem to be anything to be too concerned about. Johnny Augustine, one of the backup Canadian running backs, has not yet participated in the on-field activities, so we'll continue to monitor him. But with Harris out, it was second-year tailback and another Winnipeg native, another Oak Park kid in Brady Oliveira, taking those first-team reps, getting handoffs from Zach Collaros in the Blue Bombers offense. He broke his leg in 2019. It was kind of a hellacious injury. I know he's excited to show Blue Bomber fans right here in his hometown what he can do, but absolutely, it's 33's game, and 33's ball. He's going to continue to be that quiet example leader that the Blue Bombers have really relied on once things get going in August.
Well, listen, one more on the Bomber offense before we're talking about what you're doing with Bonfire Sports and the training camp reports and whatnot. Listen, the Bombers won the Grey Cup as the 9th passing team in the Canadian Football League. That simply does not happen. I mean, it was sort of a unicorn team. I mean, in that they were run by defense. They ran the ball more than any team normally does in the Canadian Football League, both from the running back position and the quarterback position. There's no Strevler this year. Zach Collaros is the quarterback. How different do you think this Bomber offense is going to be, Darrin, just in the way that it's structured and the go-to plays for Buck Pierce without having a Chris Strevler? And I guess part of my theory is that it'll be a much more passing-based offense. Also probably is a good thing for a 34-year-old running back that has been taking a lot of hits over a number of years. And, bottom line is he's so important to the team, both running and passing-wise. The more they can spread the ball up, probably the better for Andrew Harris when it comes to playoff time.
I've thought a lot about this. You move on from Paul Apolice, a master of the offensive X's and O's, to his, his prospect and the heir apparent in Buck Pierce. And no Chris Strevler. I think that part is definitely going to look extremely different, especially down the stretch in 2019, how effectively Chris Strevler was running the football. That all said, I don't really expect the Blue Bombers offense to look greatly different than what we've been used to the last number of years under Paul Apolice. I think the biggest change is Zach Collaros, and I think there's going to be more ability for Collaros to stretch the field, to keep defenses on their heels with a legit passing threat. But they're going to continue to play Blue Bomber offensive football. That's physical and violent attack at the line of scrimmage. Good for Zach Collaros, like any quarterback. So many people say, Collaros is one hit away from being really hurt. Well, any player is one hit away from being really hurt. The luxury the Blue Bombers have is arguably the best offensive line in the CFL, and all of those guys coming back really from left to right tackle and everybody in between, from that championship year to now. With Andrew Harris at the age of 34, he's still the straw that stirs the drink, but maybe a bit more of a rotation, maybe a bit more of Brady Oliveira, Johnny Augustine, Kyle Borsa, another Canadian running back they drafted out of the University of Regina, an extremely athletic player. I covered a game of his in Regina in 2019. They have some weapons. They have some versatility. That's always been Mike O'Shea's mantra in the coaching staff. Be versatile, be different, be able to change things up. That's the reason Zach Collaros and this Blue Bombers offense was so dangerous in the playoffs. They started doing things that teams had never seen them do all season long. So I don't really look too much at them being the 9th ranked passing team in 2019. I think it's going to be, a bit of a different story, just with the similar look and feel here in 2021.
All right, Darrin Bauming's with us now. DB, I think most people are already aware that you and the Hammer are going to be getting after it with CFL 247 coming up, and the Bonfire Sports YouTube channel is live. I know Remis threw the link in for people that are watching live on. Get over there. But not only, before we wait for the actual weekly show to get going, you've been doing some great training camp reports. Fill everyone in on the content that's coming out from you at Bonfire now that training camp is underway.
Yeah, I've been having a lot of fun doing it, Huss, going back a few years and really getting into, TV story production, but doing it in a much more modern way, for a YouTube audience, and appreciate all the love and support and links you guys have shared on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Jeff Hamilton and I will get into CFL 360 in the coming weeks. It's a very different show. It's an intensive show as far as what we're going to roll out. Want to make sure that it's right before we go, but it's going to be a heck of a lot of fun once we do that. CFL 360 and the daily stuff up on Bonfire Sports. You can find that on YouTube/Bonfire Sports. Just happy to be back doing this stuff, Hustler, and really love the questions and the response that fans out there have started sharing with the channel, and it's because of guys like you that this is the medium. People are really, it's the go-to way to get your sports fix right now.
Well, I gotta say, I saw the camp. got a little editing in there with some shots of what was going on. It was impressive, and this is, I think, what people want right now. Especially with fans not being able to be at camp right now. It's such a unique time. There is so much excitement and so much anticipation for what's going on with the football team. A great way for people to simply go get a 10-minute update on what happened at camp and the stories to look around. And I imagine those will be coming on a regular basis in advance of the show launching in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, looking forward to it. You don't want to miss it today. Willie Jefferson was lit during his media availability today. You don't want to miss those comments. I got that and a lot more coming up on Bonfire Sports.
Excellent. So again, I don't know why I called it CFL 24/7. It's 360.
Well, we're on it.
I knew
we're
it was
on it 24/7.
Well, exactly. That was the other option for the title. But of course, getting going right now. Training camp reports on a daily basis for the most part going forward, and then the show going into the season. So, DB, listen, we're gonna have to set this up and do this on a regular basis. It's great to have you back, grinding out, working on the Bomber beat, and we always love catching up. And I know people are really excited for the content you're putting out over at Bonfire Sports.
Appreciate it, Hustler. Love being on with you. You call me anytime. I'll give you the latest deets on Blue Bombers camp. I feel like a player, or maybe even more like a coach. You got to put in those 12, 14-hour days in there early going to camp here.
Yeah, just keep grinding. And by the way, the background is amazing. You've done a great job with it. I see that picture, the old stadium in the back.
Yeah,
There's
I love
been lots
that.
of comments about the little mini ghetto blaster. And that's spawned an entire different conversation in the chat about favorite cassette tapes people had. So,
man.
anyways,
I gotta grab my old hip hop mixtapes from the '90s. But that's the same radio right there that I used to listen to Bob Irving call Blue Bomber games on when I was a kid. So, it looks good up there. I like the little ghetto blast.
Well, it's going to be great to hear Bob doing the games again when things get going on August 5th. It's been a long wait, but the anticipation continues to rise as the Bombers will look to go back-to-back, albeit with a long break in between. Longest reigning champions on a single Grey Cup ever in CFL history. Bomber, great stuff, pal. Let's do this again soon. We'll catch up next week, and looking forward to all the more content you are covering the Bombers on Bonfire Sports. Thanks for doing this, dude.
Hey, keep it good, Huss. Appreciate it.
Right on. There he is, Darrin Bauming. You're probably already following him on Twitter. If you're not, you should be. Darrin with an I, Bauming. And, of course, that YouTube channel, again, Bonfire Sports, with all of his content on the Bombers in the Canadian Football League. And we'll look forward to the debut of CFL 360 with Bauming and Hammer a little bit later on this month. And we'll get both of the guys on as they launch that to make sure everyone knows what they are doing. Great stuff from DB. Hey, Aikens Lake. I am going on Friday. I cannot wait. The weather is going to be 35 degrees every day. That will complicate things a little bit, but to be honest, nowhere that I would rather be. If you've never been or seen Aikens Lake, check them out online at aikenslake.com. This is a unique opportunity. Normally, they are packed with American tourists throughout the summer because of the border. That's not the case this year. So there is some availability if you want to go and check out an absolutely world-class fly-in fishing lodge. I'll be firing out some content on my Twitter feed and Instagram over the course of the weekend, so you'll want to give me a follow at Hustlerama if you're not already. And if you are thinking about maybe getting out on the water in this incredible environment, find out more at aikenslake.com, or you can hit Pitterren up on Twitter at Aikens Lake. And of course, live racing is back tonight at Assiniboia Downs. Now, we're still waiting on the new restrictions, which will hopefully allow us to get out and bet the ponies and be in the grandstands as we normally have. Right now, the only way you can get in for live racing is into the terrace dining room, and reservations are a must. So go to asdowns.com for more information. You can book your reservation in the dining room, and fingers crossed, in a week or two, we'll be able to go in person to the Downs. And when that happens, we'll get the gang together for a little bit of a Winnipeg Sports Talk night out at the track. Of course, Assiniboia Downs, you can bet on hpibet.com right now, as well as the tracks all around the world. Remis and I will be renewing the duel at the Downs with our picks in just a couple of minutes. But get ready for Assiniboia Downs tonight. And don't forget their YouTube channel shows all the races with some great insight as well. The ASD live show begins at 6:45 before post time, just after 7:30 p.m. All right, let's get Michael Remis back in here. We do have some other things to get to, including some cool bet lines for tonight's home run derby. But Remo, great stuff. Michael Traikos, always a great guest. Fun to get into that hockey talk, especially coming out of the announcement that Duncan Keith is now a member of the Edmonton Oilers. And tell you what, Bauming's doing a great job cranking out that Bomber content. It was fun to have him after a very steamy first weekend of training camp for the Blue and Gold.
Yeah, it's real hot out there. And Darrin is doing Bonfire Sports TV. He had some really nice reports on the start of training camp. So I would definitely check that out if you're looking for some Bombers content. Shout out to Eagle Fang in chat. He popped in. He said he was just at the parade in Tampa. So I guess we're pretty wide-reaching
Hey, Eagle,
here.
what's up?
That's pretty awesome. He says there's so many boats there. So we've seen some videos. We do love a good parade. We'll see once they get to the podium. These guys can put a straight sentence together. But we did have that, bringing right in on Michael Traikos, we did have the news of the Duncan Keith trade. I'm really enjoying looking at the roster of the Oilers. I think Jonathan Willis of The Athletic was pointing out they have like $9 million in salary cap tied up in Duncan Keith now. I guess they haven't updated it on Cap Friendly. And Zach Cassian. That is not the most efficient use of salary if you're trying to put together an NHL roster in the flat cap. We'll have to see. They're going to need some more from those guys.
Do we know if Chicago retained any salary on Keith?
No salary retained.
Wow. That's not going to go over well in Edmonton.
So
I can already tell. All the things were like, yeah, we would take him if they keep half of his cap hit and all that. Yeah, apparently that's not what happened.
Dustin Nielsen posted, I guess, their video of their trade reaction, and then zeroing in on the moment where they found out there was no salary. So we might have to call him up at some point, talk some CFL and Oilers. He said he was stunned that Oilers couldn't get the Hawks to retain salary. So that's the reaction at Edmonton. I think they're confused about the timing. Otherwise you make the Blackhawks keep Keith as one of their protected. Also said the Hawks had zero leverage in the trade. So maybe the Oilers have another move where they buy out James Neal. That would be maybe their next move. So
there's going to be some buyouts, and I mean they've been talking about Koskinen. Cassian had been suggested. I think Neal's the obvious one, just because of the size of the salary, the term, and the fact that he really can't get in the lineup. It seems at most times. So yeah, this Oilers offseason is going to be fascinating. Really, the next few weeks I think are going to be very busy for us. Last week a little slow. The Cup final ends, but unlike often when you've got like a long period of dead time for the hockey calendar, that's not happening this year. I mean, as I mentioned earlier, Saturday, we will find out who is protected by each team in the NHL. And then we'll have 4 days to do mock expansion drafts and speculate on trades and who can be acquired via Seattle to other teams. And then on Wednesday, it all goes down, Wednesday the 21st. 2 days later, it's time for the draft. And then the following Wednesday, free agency begins. So these next couple weeks in hockey are going to be very interesting. We'll be talking about it on a daily basis, both from a Jets perspective and a league's perspective here on Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily.
We do need to give a shout out to the Koskinen contract too, in terms of buyouts. He's making $4.5. And I remember when they signed that, like he had played like barely in the NHL. And it's like, you're signing this guy to a 3-year deal, and then the next day Chiarelli was fired.
It's an all-timer.
Like that was his parting gift to the Oilers. So yeah, maybe he would be bought out as well. Just I don't know. I haven't seen some of the math, but for a 1 year, maybe it's not worth it as much, or it does free up a little room. But then you got to find a replacement, and he's basically replacement level. You got to pay that replacement. So is it really worth it at that point for Koskinen? But there's no question that contract was terrible the second that it was signed. I mean, maybe not terrible because it's only like $4 million, but it was definitely an overpay for like no reason.
Yeah, Eagle Fang's in here, and of course, Eagle was just out at the Stanley Cup parade. Hey, great to have you, and thank you very much for the sub, Eagle Fang. Yeah, we'll definitely be keeping the hockey talk going throughout the summer. You'll probably become a big Bomber and CFL fan too, because we'll be hitting that quite a bit now that they're back on the field and getting ready for the big game on the 5th of August. But certainly the focus in here is on the Winnipeg Jets and the National Hockey League coming into some very, very interesting weeks in and around the league.
And we are counting down to 5,000 subs on YouTube. We've been chugging along. We might be able to get there before the end of the month. That would be awesome. And if you want to help us get there, hit that red sub button under the video. I'm pointing down. That's not a thumbs down, sorry. Pointing down. And also
do the thumbs up. That's what we want.
Yeah, and then do the thumbs up. Hit that thumbs up button, the like button. It helps us become more discoverable on YouTube. If people know, a lot of people are hitting that thumbs up. So all the help is awesome. So thank you so much, guys, for your support.
Yeah, and listen, we can't forget about everyone listening on podcast that aren't with us live when we do it on YouTube. Really appreciate that as well. And if you can, at some point, just pop in at the bottom of the feed. You can give us a 5-star rating and a review. That certainly helps it as well. All right, Reem, let's get to Cool Bet, because normally we do our daily lines. This is one of my favorite days of the daily lines of the year, because there's not much going on except we have the Major League Baseball Home Run Derby. So let's get it out. 8 individuals going for the title. No surprise that the Japanese Babe Ruth, Shohei Ohtani, is the favorite and leads the league with 33 home runs. I think he just had, 17 in 25 games or something like that. I mean, the guy's been on an absolute tear. Never mind what he's doing on the mound. Ohtani is the favorite at 2-1 plus 200. Joey Gallo's next at plus 430. Pete Alonso I believe won the last Derby. I guess they didn't do one last year, but the year before at plus 625. Matt Olson is at 7-1. I'll be honest, I'm not that familiar with Matt Olson. Trevor Story, interesting. Certainly knows the ballpark in Coors Field very well. He's at 850. My guy, Salvi Perez. I don't know if Sal's going to win. He probably won't, but maybe one of my all-time favorite players. He's 10-1. Great to see Salvi in there. Juan Soto at plus 1150 and Trey Mancini at 17-1. Remo, thoughts on where the value is for this Derby tonight? And most important, what's going to be the winning bet? Who's taking this?
Yeah, that's a good question, Huss. Let me just bring myself up here so you can see my beautiful face. If you want to go over the sentimental pick, Trey Mancini at plus 1700. He sat out last year recovering from cancer, and he's back and in the home run derby. Very good player. I may not know him, Baltimore. The hometown pick, Trevor Story, plus 850. I kind of like him. Decent odds, top shortstop. That would be one to pick. I like Juan Soto too. I mean, plus 1150, great player, but he's going up against the favorite Ohtani in the first round. You could be one and done there. So I think Trevor Story would probably be the pick. I like Matt Olson. He hits bombs on the A's. But I mean, Ohtani, you got to go with him. I know it's tough. And one thing you do worry about in the home run derby, like guys hitting too many home runs early and then tiring out. Like, didn't Guerrero Jr. Everyone remembers that he put on that show. I think he didn't even win, right?
No, he did.
He didn't win.
Lost
he tired
in the
out.
final. He had
tired out.
50 home runs in the first 2 rounds and then hit 6 or something in the final.
Yeah, so I think you got to be worried about that. Maybe go. I think I'm leaning Trevor Story. That would be my pick. He's plays for the Rockies. He's got pow. I'm gonna go with him.
As an aside, has there ever been anything that improved so much by a simple rule change than the home run derby going to this new format? Do you remember how borderline unwatchable it was before, where they just waited for the pitch that they wanted?
It was terrible.
I mean, it was absolutely mind-numbing. It was so bad. Like, I was the one that said, listen, just cancel this. This sucks. Nobody wants to watch this. And by changing it to a timed event, it completely did a 180. And now, I mean, when it comes to all-star festivities like three-point contest, slam dunk contest, all the ridiculous things the NHL does, there's nothing as exciting as this home run derby. Like, I'm legitimately excited to watch this tonight.
I think we all want to go and see Shohei Ohtani mash some dingers tonight, but also I'm sure there could be some name of this group. I mean, Juan Soto is one of the brightest young stars in the league as well. And now it's kind of sad they matched these two guys up in the first round, but we have noted that the players do tend to run out of gas towards the end, so maybe that's why they made these matchups. But I am excited. I agree it was getting stale. Guys were just looking at pitches, waiting. This timed event, you just got to go. It's fast. The head-to-head, while maybe you'll have instances where some player is not deserving of winning, but I think no one remembers who beat Guerrero in that final. You just remember him putting on a show and hitting home runs. So I think that's what we want to see tonight, Ohtani. And I am very excited. I will be tuning in to his appearances and seeing the other guys too, and maybe someone can come out and hit some bombs.
It would have been great to have Vlad in this as well. Although I'm always nervous. Doing well in the home run derby seems to curse guys in the second half of the season, which is very bizarre and strange. And I'm not sure whether it's coincidence or not, but the way Vlad's going right now for the Blue Jays, I think they'll just let him keep doing what he's doing and not worry about hitting 70 bombs at Coors Field on home run derby night. But I think we're lucky to have Ohtani. I'm not sure how many times Ohtani's going to be in this. This is really the year of Shohei. So the fact that he's such a heavy favorite will make it fun to watch. But we've seen it doesn't always go that way. I do see a lot of love for Joey Gallo, who really is just been put on this earth to hit home runs and not do much else. So we'll see what he can do. Anyways, we'll check that out tonight. I'm sure we'll talk about it a little bit later on this week on the program as well. All-Star game tomorrow. And then we'll see if the Jays can make a push and try and get back into playoff contention. Great game by Robbie Ray yesterday, just quickly on the Jays room. You see that? I mean, 11 strikeouts, 1 hit, dominant pitching performance right when the Jays needed it after dropping the first 2 against the Rays.
Yeah, Robbie Ray, I mean, he had some great seasons in Arizona, and he kind of had fallen off. Was walking too many guys when he came to the Jays, he pitched great, but again, consistency, an issue with him. And the Jays, want to make a push here in the second half. They got to shore up the bullpen. They've already made a couple deals to do that, getting Trevor Richards last week. And Robbie Ray, they're going to need the starting pitching as well. So, the bats, who was it in chat, said Jays are exciting team, are fun to watch. BA saying that in chat. But the pitching is going to be what gets them into the playoffs, hopefully. So we'll see, the trade deadline coming up at the end of the month. And I'm sure they're going to make a couple moves to address their bullpen. I keep hearing them linked with Craig Kimbrell. He's having a big season for the
Kimbrell
Cubs.
would be an amazing. He's got 2 more years of team control, but it certainly would cost a pretty penny to get him there. But honestly, and when you look at the Jays' makeup, maybe it's worth it. They made a few deals over the past couple of weeks. They're still trying to bolster that bullpen, and they'll need to continue to do that if they do want to contend. Hey, Jason Jett in chat. British Open contest on DK. Yes, we will be doing a DraftKings. I'll make probably a 50-person contest. I'll put it out shortly afterwards. And again, I don't know if the league invites are working, so I'll also put a tweet out with the link. So if you haven't joined us before for some of these, the golf ones are my favorite. It'll be a $3 contest. We'll do the top 5 win. So join us. Check my Twitter a little bit later on, and make sure you reserve your spot. Tell your friends. And that will be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'll be donating to that.
Hey, you never know you never know how it'll come out. But Wednesday 11 p.m. is the first tee time. Oh, that's right. Open Championship. May have to change the old sleep schedule a little bit for the next couple days once we get to tee off for the Open, as it were. So yes, I will be making that contest right after the program. So check it out. Tweet me if you haven't seen it or if you need a link. And I'm at Hustlerama as well on DraftKings. Remis, of course, is at Remis.
Yeah, I'll take head-to-heads if anyone wants to fill me on a head-to-head. Maybe CFL, I do head-to-heads. Not NFL, or not golf. Golf, I suck at DraftKings, but any other sports, I'm usually pretty good.
Well, we're going to be, and you mentioned CFL. We cannot wait. We will have our first DraftKings CFL contest for Winnipeg Sports Talk going into week number 1, and working behind the scenes with the folks on maybe some other cool things to do with them going into the season. We'll let you know how that goes. One cool thing I know we're going to be doing tonight, Remo, is trying to get back in the winner's circle at the track at Assiniboia Downs. I had a couple nice wins last week. You, after your incredible start, slipping a little bit. Did you spend some time meditating, thinking positive thoughts as you go into your Monday picks?
No, Huss. I went with the opposite. I tried to, put it away, try to enjoy myself. I'm not thinking about racing, and now I'm trying to come in with an open mind. So I didn't do anything differently, just tried not to think about it. And now I started looking at the board. I was like, oh God, don't screw this up. Got to pick the right one because I'm on a big losing streak here at Assiniboia Downs.
Do you have your selections ready to go?
I got my picks, yeah.
All right, you fire yours in. I'm just making my last couple.
Okay, I will do my picks. We are ready. Race 2. And there's a bit of a trend. There's a lot of horses named Wits. I don't know. I gotta ask. Do you know why? Is there some owner who names every horse like Wit? Starts with Wit.
It's funny you say that because we've got Wits Hurricane, Wits Dollar Knight is in one of the races tonight.
So many. So if anyone knows, I'm actually curious. But race 2, I'm taking You Should Talk to place. That's finished second. Race 3, I'm doing a Quinella with my guy City Champ, who I've had before. And number 7, Stone Cafe. They got to finish 1 and 2. In any order, that's a Quinella. And race 5, I am taking horse 6, Nothing But a Blur to win. And I'm also taking my last pick. So I did 4 $5 bets. You have to spend $20. HPI bet, Assiniboia Downs. Last one, horse 7, Sue's Easter Girl to win. So I'm trying to keep it simple. That's what I'm doing. I'm not going anything crazy. Keep it simple. Just trying to pick winners. And hopefully I can get at least one of these because it has been a rough ride for me after starting off real hot.
Yes. All right, let's go. I'm actually going to pick a couple winners. Race number 1, We're going to go with 1 to win, half in the wrapper to win. I'm going to figure out, it'd probably be $3 or $4 bets on all of these. Race 2, I'm going to take number 6, Warbridge to win. And then I'll go with the 6-8 Quinella. You Should Talk and Warbridge to get. Did you go You Should Talk for place?
Yes, I did.
Okay, good. So hopefully we can both win those bets. So 6 to 8, You Should Talk to place. Number 3, I'm going to put maybe a bigger chunk on City Champ. It looks like it's about even money. Probably won't pay a lot, but maybe I'll make a bigger bet. But I'm definitely going to take City Champ to win. City Champ has won 4 straight at Assiniboia Downs. And then we get to race number 4. We're going to do a Quinella with number 2, Chicago Roll, and number 6, Pucker. And we move in. I like race number 5 as there's 8 horses. So just looking at the races, we're going to go with number 6, Nothing But a Blur. We're going to throw number 2, Not a Doctor, on the card. And we're also going to take Mr. Snickers. Actually, no, we're going to go 5, the X-High Kid. So 6, 2, and 5. We'll do the triactor wheel for $1 try. So there are my picks. We'll get those out, see if we can get back at it, back in the win column. Did have a couple nice ones last week. And of course, if you do want to bet with us, you can do it, as Remis mentioned, at hpibet.com. And if you want to get out to the track, as I know many people do right now, you can watch it all in the terrace dining room, but reservations are a must. So you can give Assiniboia Downs a call or check out more on asdowns.com. Remo, great show to come back. By the way, we have not talked about this, and I was going to get into it with Michael Traikos, but we had more interesting things to talk about. But I'm sure I was not the only one that chuckled a little bit and was legitimately surprised to hear Pierre Maguire hired today by the Ottawa Senators as their senior vice president of player development.
Yeah, I mean, he's always been the name rumored to be interviewed for GMs, and hasn't landed a position. And here he is. NBC doesn't have the contract anymore, so now he's free. He's a free agent, and he's with an NHL front office. To me, I mean, I'm not running an NHL organization, but to me, I would probably be leaning towards someone that's had some experience in the last 15 years working in an NHL front office to have a vice president level position. But Pierre Maguire, I mean, he has seen a lot of hockey. He's been in between the glass for a number of games. I know he does a lot of preparation. I love his hits. I love his hits on the radio.
Rich Doozer, Maguire knows every player's home address when they were 13 years old. So that's player development right there, Reem.
There you go. I mean, he does know where they all play junior and who coached them. I mean, I don't doubt that. But as far as running an NHL front, being a high level NHL front office, getting some criticism. Also getting some criticism as for his dismissiveness of analytics. I know I think you need to have some kind of balance, and he's going very hard on scouting. And I know he likes to use the term boots on the ground when using scouting. So Ottawa is going to be getting some close looks at certain guys. So I thought it was a curious move. I'm not going to say, either I'm going to maybe fence it here, but I find it interesting, Huss. I don't know where you stand.
He's the most polarizing figure. He drove everybody crazy with some of the things that he said on television, and he was an easy guy to pick on, and everyone took shots on him. And yeah, in a lot of ways, he's not that likable a guy. I think the criticisms of analytics, if you will, are a little bit overblown. And like I saw him say today, I mean, all of that information is important, but it's important in conjunction, or at least he believes with, and I think most hockey people do, and I believe this too. I mean, you're not getting the full story just by looking at a chart. I mean, there is some element of actually watching guys play, seeing things that they do when it comes to coaching, player development, and all of that. That opinion maybe isn't that popular on social media, but I think that is, for the most part, the way things go. And even the most analytically based teams in the National Hockey League, I mean, are not 100% on the chart. I mean, there are some of those other things. So listen, Maguire in some ways is a bit of an easy punching bag. But he's brought a lot of it on himself as well. And then, when you add the fact that it's the Ottawa Senators, I did see some funny things. Eugene Melnyk, now only the second most disliked person in the organization right now. So I don't know. It's an interesting story going forward. Low Tide today on TSN in Edmonton was saying, mark my words, Pierre Maguire is going to be the next GM of the Ottawa Senators. And he has been rumored out there before, and I think probably more often was just sort of poking some of his insider buddies. Hey, can you mention me for some of these jobs? Just say that I'm in the mix. But anyways, he's working back in hockey, and it'll be interesting to see. That's a very important job for the Ottawa Senators. When you think about player development, I mean, they've stunk for a long time. They've got a lot of very talented young players. I would suggest that, while the job, the title itself, he's a vice president, but he's in player development, not coaching. If you're a team that has drafted as many top young players as the Ottawa Senators have, he will have a hand in trying to get this team back to a much more respectable position than they've been for the last few seasons.
Yeah, and it seems like Ottawa is on the way up. I know they got off to the gate real slow start, and we saw the Jets beat them a bunch. But since that first month, I think they were very strong, and they have a number of young players moving forward. Tim Stützle, Thomas Chabot starting. Those were probably two of their top guys, and I didn't even mention Brady Tkachuk. So I think they're good going forward. I mean, Pierre Maguire, he did work in hockey before. I mean, assistant coach from 91 to 96, including a short stint as head coach with Hartford. So, I mean, he does have NHL experience. I just found it curious that you hire a guy for that type of position who hasn't worked in an NHL front office in like 15 years. So,
hey, Mitch, the Godfather, Mitch WHT is in, and Mitch was the area scout for Portland for a long time here in Manitoba. Mitch, what is it? Mitch says Brutes on the ground is good. LOL. It's about 10 to 15% of overall evaluation. Mitch, just drop in chat your thoughts on how much you get out of watching the players and how much of it is elsewhere. Because I think Mitch, of all people in the chat, has the most experience from actually scouting and also has a great grasp of, how important some of these numbers are and trends and things that you can't get from popping in and watching one or two games going forward. And Rio, speaking of scouting and all of that, I know our focus for the next week or so is going to be on that expansion draft, but we cannot forget that 2 days after that is the amateur draft. And I got to say, I'm more interested in this draft maybe than any in recent history, not from a perspective of the Jets and where they're picking. Obviously, the Line A draft was the most exciting from that, but just how weird. And I know we're going to be talking with some draft experts over the course of the next few weeks before it goes. I'm really interested to see just how different these draft boards are from scout to scout and team to team. Because of the unpredictable nature of this year's draft, because of how many players weren't playing last year.
I can tell you, every player picked, the team will say, we can't believe he fell to us. We had him ranked way higher on our draft board. I'm sure that'll be said even more than usual. And yeah, we'll be talking. I'm talking with Shane Malloy, Hockey Prospect Radio. He's probably going to come on this week. I know he's camping right now. It is July 12th. But
those guys have their draft boards ready. This is just, they're just waiting for it to all get going. I don't think there's going to be much changing of the boards in the middle of July.
No, but Owen Power seems to be the consensus number one, or is he? We'll have to wait and see what Buffalo does. I know they picked Rasmus Dahlin, first overall a couple years ago, and he had some big regression this year, but with a new, with Don Granato now being the regular coach, taking off that interim label, maybe things are finally on the up and up, and they will have likely a Jack Eichel trade and a Sam Reinhart trade as well. Seemingly, if you follow the trade boards that the insiders put out.
Yeah, so they're going to trade everybody off their team and blow it up again. Man, that's an unfortunate situation. And Kevin Adams, I don't know whether he's cut out to do this. I mean, speaking of guys getting very important jobs with a lot of experience, I mean, he was running business operations for the Pagulas, and next thing you know, he's the general manager of the Buffalo Sabres. And I mean, to trade a player like Jack Eichel affects your franchise probably for a decade, a minimum going forward. So a lot of pressure on Adams to make the right deal for the Sabres going forward. I like Buffalo. I think their fans are amazing. They've supported their team. We've seen what's happened with the Bills now that they're respectable, the love and the support they're getting in that market. And I think it's there for the Sabres. but how they get there is a much more difficult problem to solve because they've been trying for the last decade and it simply hasn't been working. Great show today. Thanks to everyone that showed up and popped in. If you haven't already, hit that thumbs up button. We could certainly use the likes on the way out. Tell a friend about Winnipeg Sports Talk. As I said, lots of Jets and Bomber talk over these next few weeks with Bomber training camp going on and everything going on as far as the NHL offseason. And I know we'll get to more of that tomorrow. Remo on the program. Hopefully heading out to Saskatchewan, see if we can get DT to join us for a little bit of CFL talk. We'll certainly talk more hockey, as well as break down this Duncan Keith trade a little bit more with some reaction from Edmonton. Should be quite interesting.
Yeah.
Remo, before we go, any further thoughts on this evening and the home run derby and your final selection?
Nah, I guess I'll pick Trevor Story if we had to pick. I'm not gonna pick Ohtani. That's the easy way out. I don't take the easy way. So anyone can go pick a favorite. I'm not picking. I didn't pick Tampa Bay to win the cup because anyone can pick Tampa Bay. No.
Okay. Here, this is just back to our scout question before we go. Mitch has chimed in. Watching is important. Skating is different in person for me. Skating number 1, skill number 2, compete number 3. Work ethic, etc. Analytics come into play later, and in my opinion, account for maybe 20 to 25% of overall evaluation. There you go, from the mouth of a scout, our good friend Mitch.
Yeah, it's some good intel there. I guess we didn't touch too much on you mentioned the Kucherov thing a bit. I wanted to point out this picture of. There's a lot of pictures and stuff coming on. We do have what is this? This tweet. With Andrei Vasilevsky wearing the Conn Smythe trophy as a hat. What disrespect, Huss. You can't be doing that. That's a legendary trophy. To be putting it on your head, completely inappropriate. And I don't know. They should be getting called out for this.
Listen, last year, we all remember the outrage when Tom Brady threw the Lombardi trophy to another boat, and I believe it was the granddaughter of the silversmith that made the Lombardi trophy took to social media to say she was outraged at the disrespect that the Buccaneers showed to the trophy. I can't but help wondering if there's a long lost relative of whoever made the Conn Smythe trophy that might be taken to social media chastising Vasilevsky for disrespecting the trophy. It's a trophy, not a hat, Andre. Show it some respect, even though you're the owner of the trophy right now. Come on.
I couldn't agree more. The Tampa Bay Lightning, I'm looking forward to them getting booed in every building next year. I know you touched on the 18 million t-shirt. I think when you put them, I think those guys are just laughing in the dressing room, when Kucherov came back. You're back now. We're 18 million over the cap. The whole league, they're going down. Isn't that amazing, guys? How we pulled a fast one here. Now I don't know if they did, manipulate some time recovery.
Tell me if Julian Breezeball wears that shirt. If Breezeball is wearing that shirt, that is really poking the bear going forward.
Yeah. And I don't know if they're going to change the rule or not, but I think when a team is pointing out how they were able to bend the rules like that, I love it in terms of us being able to talk about it and giving people a reaction, but in terms of running a business, I'm not sure if that's what you want to see.
Right.
But I think it is awesome. I think Tampa's going to get booed in every bill, especially Montreal. They're going to get booed. I think Vegas, when he called Fleury, what's his name? I think it's great.
And same here. Disrespecting.
Oh yeah, disrespected
our savior, Connor Hellebuck.
Yeah. So I think we need to, when the Tampa comes here next year, and people can go, we'll have to rile up everyone, remind them about how he disrespected Connor Hellebuck, and everyone
do that.
Because Winnipeg hasn't booed anyone really strongly in a while, but Tampa they're embracing full heel mode, and I'm here for it. But we need to respond and boo them mercilessly when they come.
Yes. Respond appropriately, hockey fans of the National Hockey League, when the Lightning get ready for a three-peat.
Yeah.
Hey, this has been a great show. Great way to start it off. Great to see a few people that were back with us live on YouTube that maybe were on holidays for a couple days last week. Thanks so much for doing this. As always, want to thank our great family of sponsors, Not AutoCorp, Little Brown Jug, Breezy Bend, Royal Sports, Boston Pizza, the Nick and Nicky DQ group. Great to see Nick join us live today in the chat. Of course, Aikens Lake and Assiniboia Downs. End of the program, I'll wait, but I'll tell you tomorrow who our very two special guest hosts are going to be. when I'm at Aikens on Friday and Monday. We've got a couple great friends of the program stepping in with Remis on Friday and Monday. We'll tell you about that tomorrow on the program. We'll have more on this National Hockey League offseason. We'll recap the festivities at the Derby going into the All-Star game. We'll talk more CFL training camps and Winnipeg Blue Bombers and much, much more. In the meantime, folks, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe if you're with us on YouTube. Rate and review if you can, if you're listening on podcast, and spread the word about Winnipeg Sports Talk. And oh, by the way, if you haven't already picked up any of the Winnipeg Sports Talk merchandise, it is available now at the store. You can click on the store tab at winnipegsportstalk.com, or Remis has obviously thrown a couple of links as well in the chat today as well.
It's in the description. And shout out to Braden Fleming, who said he got his shirt today, and a number of people. Leslie tweeted us he got his hoodie.
Yeah, Leslie looking good in that hoodie. The merch came out great, folks. It's high-end stuff.
Yes,
you will definitely like it. We ordered it first to make sure it was good before we told anybody else.
Yeah, Braden said he wore the shirt today, and someone had never heard of us, apparently. So we got a new fan from Braden rocking that shirt. So thank you, everyone.
To be honest, I mean, that is why, I mean, we are so thankful to the people that have picked it up and are wearing it around, because, I mean, not only is it great and certainly encouraging for us to see the support we've had, that people would want to be wearing it. There's going to be a lot of word of mouth, I think, advertising for it, where people see it. Wait a second, what is Winnipeg Sports Talk? And obviously, you folks that are been so loyal to us since we started on the 8th of March with episode number 1 are the greatest crew we could have, telling people about the show and letting people more know about it. So, if anyone's asking, tell them to look us up on YouTube and their favorite podcast feed. Hit the subscribe button. Join us daily on YouTube at 1 o'clock. And in that inbox for a podcast listeners just after 3 p.m. every afternoon. Well, great way to start the week today with a Monday. Big thanks to Michael Traikos and Darrin Bauming. Don't forget to check out Bauming's YouTube channel at Bonfire Sports for his daily training camp updates, and we'll look forward to he and Hammer getting going with CFL 360 in a couple weeks before the season begins. We'll have another big show tomorrow, folks. Thanks again for joining us today. Thanks to all the sponsors, and most importantly to all of you for making Winnipeg Sports Talk a part of your day. Have a great night. Enjoy the Home Run Derby, and we'll see you tomorrow at 1 o'clock right here on Winnipeg Sports Talk.
Oh my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.